Uh, uh, uh. The game therefore associates the upwards path towards a series of symbols that tend to be about life, a certain vitality, joy. Downward path seems to be symbols about death. The way this is seen is also through the games. The second game delimits the downward path, and it is indeed a place of death. Bottles is dead, and Grunty is dead, of course. The music is sad, but this sad music, I would claim, is not only sad because of the death, it's sad because of the destruction. The whole world seems to be in a bad shape. We know this because we played Banjo Kazooie, the first one, and saw how Spiral Mountain was. It was joyful and alive, and now the game, Banjo Tooie, is telling us, no, look at it now. It is bad. It's in a bad state. Not just the death of the characters, it's the death of the place itself. It's become a sad, derelict place. I claim that is why, as well, the music is sad. It signals a derelict state. I'd claim this is because the neat and orderly Spiral Mountain is covered in burnt patches, maybe from Grunty's magic. There are destroyed boulders crashed upon the rocks. The whole area is sort of derelict and broken. This is curious because it means there are two types of brokenness in this game. We have Spiral Mountain as a broken place, but also a place of actual death, the death of the characters. It seems as if the death of the characters and the death of the buildings are the same sort of death. We're shown this sad place, and it is all sad at the same time. We don't get two distinct sad moments. The sad moment is the same. Death of the character and death of the buildings, of the land. I'd claim this game is making this connection between the characters and the land. If the characters are happy and alive, the Spiral Mountain area is happy. If the characters are not, the building and area is not as well. Spiral Mountain seems to be in synchronization with whatever is happening in the lives of the inhabitants. The same happens in Jinjo Village. We get two things: the death of the Jinjo family with the destruction of their buildings. The game doesn't seem to simply show the destruction of a building without the death of the people inside it. Or it doesn't show either the death of the building without anyone dying inside. The death of the building is the death of the people in it. That's what I think is being signified. Derelict places are places where the people have also gone. Not just the buildings are abandoned, the people have been abandoned, and death has befallen them too. The structure has life in it, or it hasn't. When it hasn't, it's broken. Spiral Mountain, for example, used to be a place thriving with vegetables. It also had a lot of cornfields, or what seems like cultivated land. It seems it is a place thriving with food. Banjo Tooie has broken this. The cornfields are gone. The food is gone. The first game is then associated to joy and food, perhaps. Life, in this way. Literally, the life grows out of the earth as food for the people living there. Vegetables, food, are life. It is literally living matter coming out of the ground. But it also is food for our protagonists, so it is food for life, food that gives life. In Banjo Tooie, the food is gone, so death has arrived, both in the death of the people, but also as the death of the life-providing structure that was built, the cultivated fields, the land, the food that was provided. Food is gone. What does it mean? Banjo Kazooie presents a lot of food-related cases or moments, so I'd like to present them. They might relate to the fact that Spiral Mountain is filled with food in this game. Enemies in this game mostly try to eat you. We have chests which eat you with their teethy mouths, Yum Yum, a shell that eats you, Snacker, whose name also evokes food or a snack and wants to eat you, Piranhas, who also want to eat you, Chump, another piranha fish, Chomper, whose name also evokes eating, chomping, Snare Bear, a Venus trap that eats bears, we guess, Twinkly Munchers, tubes that try to eat you, Grimlet. Nibbly is a bat, but its name might evoke nibbling or eating something, as a rat or rodent would. Sorry to bore you, but I feel this list is long and sort of evokes something. Banjo-Tooie is absolutely not like this. I may have investigated this badly, but I think Banjo-Tooie has two enemies that explicitly try to eat you. Snapdragons and Dragundas who eat you. The rest are all sorts of different enemies who mostly attack by projectiles, weapons, or other ways. So Banjo-Kazooie is filled, for some reason, with enemies who want to eat and bite you. Why? It seems food is a theme here, but you're being eaten, you're food. You even feed others. Certain places which aren't enemies also use this food theme or eating. For example, Logo's mouth. You enter its mouth. This entrance is called his mouth by him. Another entrance, the turtle's mouth, is also the way in. Golden crocodiles need food. You shoot eggs. Mumbo is also a mouth that you enter into. The sphinxes in Gobi's desert also eat your food you provide. And Gruntilda, of course, you enter her through her mouth. This, to me, makes this theme more clear. Gruntilda's mouth is not just a passageway. I feel the game is so much about food that it makes Grunty's mouth another case of this, another case of eating and being eaten. The game is all about being eaten or providing food for others, for ones who want to eat or feed from you. Clanker, for example, is also someone who allows you to enter its mouth. Entering someone's mouth is a theme. Many doors in Grunty's lair are shaped like mouths. In Banjo-Tooie, there may not be as many enemies who attack by eating you, but there are situations in which eating is a theme. I simply think it's a theme in a different way. In Banjo-Tooie, you are eaten by characters, but it's not the overwhelming focus. I think the focus in this game is about not eating. You help characters eat, but they haven't been eating before, so they're hungry in a way that denotes a certain tension. Chili Billy and Chili Willy, for example, are hungry and have been waiting for their food. They're impatient. Their food is not arriving. The game is focused on this issue of hunger, lack of food, and the problems this causes for the characters, more than in an immediate satisfaction of hunger. In the previous game, whenever a character wants feeding, it's simply a fun thing. The sphinxes just pop up and enjoy the food you give, as do the croctuses. In Tooie, the problem is focused, I think, on how food is lacked. The Oogle Boogle tribe is hungry, and this is shown as a form of suffering. They're not eating. That's the problem. Boggy is hungry and wants some fish. This is, we could say, not a huge problem, since he's just watching TV and wants some food, which he could get himself. However, compared to Banjo-Kazooie, I think it at least presents itself as a problem or an inconvenience. In Banjo-Kazooie, I feel this is less of a theme. In Banjo-Tooie again, we've got an issue of feeding in the aliens in Atlantis, their appearance. Their problem is they need to find their children and they are late for dinner. A late dinner is a problem. They have been waiting for dinner and now they can go. Eating is delayed. It has been stopped by some inconvenience and must be fixed. Oh, great. Okay, yeah, recording. The issue is not eating. The problem is not reaching a meal. That's the main problem in this case. I hate... Mrs. Boggy has the same problem. Her children have gone and she needs to round them up to go get food. Dinner is delayed here because they're lost, so they need to be rounded up and taken back home. She is worried about how dinner is not being had. Dinner not being had is a problem. Mrs. Bottles has the same issue. Dinner cannot be had because Bottles is late. He's not here, so dinner is late. There is a delay. Feeding is not being had because of some problem that prevents food from happening. Bovina, for example, has crops which are bad. They are infected by insects. Her crops, the producers of food for her, are infected. This needs to be fixed so that they can grow food. The food is in some way bad or infected, we could say, unsatisfying. This happens also in the witchy world food, which is described as unhygienic or bad. It seems that food is either gone or is bad to eat. In either case, the experience of eating is not satisfied. One's desire for food isn't fully satisfied, I think. Jolly Roger's Inn, for example, also presents its food in a way that is mysterious and overtly sexual in their innuendos, sort of suggesting this is not food. What all this means, I'd say, is that Banjo-Tooie seems to have more of an emphasis on hunger not being fully satisfied. Eating is delayed. Or when it arrives, it's sort of bad. For example, Bottles finally reaches his dinner and it's burnt. There are examples in this game of satisfaction and food that is good, but I feel the game tends in the direction of delay, insatisfaction, badness. In Banjo-Kazooie there are also examples of badness, delay, etc. For example, Clanker is complaining that he eats too much trash and his mouth hurts. So it suggests food is a bad experience for him. He's in a bad state because of his eating. Nabnut the squirrel has problems with food shortages also. There are cases, but I'd still want to argue that Banjo-Tooie has a tendency towards insatisfaction with food, whereas Banjo-Kazooie has a greater tendency to present food as something immediately eatable and satisfying. Because of this, the presence of food and crops in the first game's Spiral Mountain, and the disappearance of them in the second one, speaks to me. It feels again that the themes of fun, rising up, life, movement, are being connected to having food, and the second game is connecting descending, sadness, insatisfaction with food. At some level, this is a theme about food being available and it not being available. These are two states one can travel between, just like hot, cold, life, death, and the spiral seems to travel between them, associating one with one game and the other with the other. So then, what is happening in Spiral Mountain when we ascend the spiral and enter the mouth? As I said, I think I'd choose to read the possibility that we are symbolically being eaten. At the same time, eating is in this game presented in great part as a form of death. Enemies kill you by eating you, biting you, getting you in their jaws. I think this means we could read Grunty's statue's mouth here as a sign of our death. What I mean is that Grunty is eating us, and we're not simply travelling down to her belly unchanged, because the game, I'd say, is connecting the act of eating with an act also of making the food be killed. Eating makes the eaten element be killed. So when we enter this mouth, this is a symbol of being killed. We are being killed by Grunty. Why? Because we're food, and we're alive. And when something alive enters into another mouth, it is dead. What I mean to emphasize is that this game is not choosing to use food and eating as processes that don't cause death, as maybe other fairy tales and myths might, where heroes are swallowed by a monster and stay in there, intact. In this case, I think the game does want to associate being killed with being eaten. So Grunty's mouth is an opening that you enter it and die. You go from being alive to being dead. It's a transition. Grunty now eats your life. She has your life, and you are left without it. So life transitions into death. The upward spiral is about you being eaten by the enemies. Grunty eats, and her minions also eat. You are eaten, or you feed. Someone is dying, and someone is staying alive. Someone is transitioning from life to death. It's you, Banjo. Someone is transitioning from death to life, or gaining life, gaining more life, being fed by you, and it's Grunty and her world. At the same time, it's Grunty who is trying to make herself into a new person. She wants to be a new person, a new Grunty who is attractive and young and like Tooty. She wants to stop being herself as she was and be someone else, a new person. So the game is delimiting a quest by which Grunty is trying to stop being herself in some way. She wants the old Grunty to stop being. She wants death. The old Grunty to stop existing. Why does she want to stop being Grunty? Because Tooty is the most beautiful. Let's try and deduce a few things from this. Grunty doesn't like not being the most beautiful. By this we also understand that she doesn't consider herself the most beautiful. That is to say, she listens to her cauldron, which gives her news of the world. This news is that Tooty is the most beautiful person in this world. Her appraisal of her own beauty seems to be affected by how the world sees Tooty. She takes this news and decides that she will kidnap Tooty to obtain her body and be more like her. So her news that she is not the number one loved by this world makes her take action to change herself, to change into a body like Tooty's, since that is a body that the world has chosen to like. The game seems to be telling us, then, that Grunty would like the world to like her, the world's approval, and that she somehow agrees with the world in seeing herself as ugly and Tooty as nice. Grunty first thinks she is the prettiest, but upon learning that the world doesn't think so, she wants to change that. That belief in her own prettiness, which she has at the start of the game, disappears. This is in accordance with what her sister Brentilda says. She mentions how Grunty was bullied in school, had nicknames that were insults, is clearly bullied by Brentilda herself, we learn. Brentilda doesn't have a good opinion of Grunty. She also tells us that the school, her classmates, also didn't like Grunty. They thought her food choices were weird, that she dressed in a disgusting way, that she played in bad bands. They all seem to insult the fact that she's fat. Her favourite colours are bad, her favourite pets are bad. The overall impression is that Grunty's people growing up all felt she was bad, had bad desires that no one should like, liked things she shouldn't like, had a disgusting body. Assuming the nicknames she got in school were shared amongst her peers, she grew up disliked not just by Brentilda, but it seems that by her peers as a whole. It's striking how all this informs how we read the first scene. She wants to be the kind of person the world desires, with the kind of looks, behaviour, habits, etc. that are desired by others. At the same time, Brentilda tells us she was not wanted, not desired, bullied all around. So, it feels to me like it's not a stretch to assume that Grunty wants to stop existing as herself and become Tooty because she has grown up in a bullying world and wants to be not bullied anymore. The second game shows us Grunty wanting to be herself, not to be a Tooty, to be not to be a new person, but to be herself, to exist, not to stop existing. She wants to be herself, but is not herself at the moment. She's someone else. She's not existing as herself. This is a quest for Grunty to become alive, to start existing, a transition from death to life in this game. In the first game, she wants to go from existing as Grunty to not existing because she wants to be loved. The desire to die is because she wants to be loved as a new Grunty. In the second game, this reason is not so apparent. Why does Grunty want to become alive? Why isn't she okay being dead, a skeleton of what she was? That I can see, there is no backstory to this. It simply seems Grunty prefers being alive. She prefers being a body, her old body. The most we get as a reason is her saying that she doesn't like her skeleton body. So the reason is because she wants to. Grunty acts based on what she desires. In the first game, she acts based on what the world has said it desires through the cauldron. The world apparently wants Tooty, so Grunty wants to be Tooty. Her desires are the world's desires. In the second game, she wants what she wants, her personal stuff. In the first game, Grunty is keeping other people in mind when deciding. She wants to be Tooty because other people, the world, want Tooty to be the thing. Grunty is in the first game aware of what others want and acts based on that. She's in dialogue with others, so to speak. Her quest is based on what her relationship to the world is. In Banjo-Tooie, she's only in relationship to herself. Her quest is to be what she wants to be, based on what she herself wants, not based on what others say is good. In fact, Bottles also wants to be himself. The quest is for him to even exist. The plot in the game is about characters who want to be themselves. In the first game, the issue is people. For example, Tooty is herself. She is already and doesn't need to be. She's trapped by other people in a cage, caged by Grunty. The problem here is her relationship to other people. She's in a bad relationship with Grunty. She's trapped by her and doesn't want to. Bottles is alone, killed. Other people killed him, but his problem now is simply being alive. It's not about a better relationship with others. It's about being. In Banjo-Kazooie, the quest is to navigate a relationship. Grunty navigates her relationship with other people's desires. Tooty also is in a relationship with other people, and it brings her problems. Grunty is trapping her. Tooie is about, regardless of what other people want or not, being yourself. To be yourself. The quest is not being trapped or not, but being, existing, even if other people want to or not. Banjo-Kazooie navigates a relationship. The second game's quest is self to self. What you want versus what others want. What does Grunty want? Do we get any inkling of this? In Banjo-Tooie, we get a sense that she has established a series of enterprises around the land. Witchy World, where shady ways of making money seem to have caused it to shut down, according to the explanations in the game and manual. Grunty Industries, of course, where she is trying to make money, I guess, since the practices of the factory also seem to be fairly obscured and not clear what is being produced, only that it makes money. Glitter Gulch Mine is described as the Hag's gem mine, so I guess it could either mean it belongs to the island, or that it belongs to the Hags, Grunty's sisters and herself, I guess. This is a place where gold is found, so it feels Grunty wants wealth, and she puts herself in the position of CEO or leader too. Power, material wealth. She wants to possess valuable stuff. She is important, or a CEO, to people around her. Has power over the workers because she possesses material resources. In the first game, however, she wants to be of value to people around her, have power, because of her own body and personality, because she will be seen as beautiful, seen as someone who behaves in an attractive way. She wants to be a person who is valued. Her wealth is herself. She is the object in her possession. Another way of saying this could be that she wants to be a self that is valued. The quest is to be a self that is valued, regardless of her material possessions. Even if she doesn't have money, she will be valued for being beautiful in the eyes of others. That's her goal. So a weird inversion takes place. The first game is about being valued, being a valued self, in relationship with other people who tell you what is good or bad. The second game is about being an unvalued self. The world doesn't like it. The CEO, the leader, is not especially valued. And this boss, Grunty, is in a relationship with other people where she possesses what is valued by the world, the resources everyone else wants. She gets to decide what's good or bad for others. It is good to go to Witchy World or to buy her products from Grunty Industries. Right? She creates pathways for desire. Others will desire what she makes. Characters in Banjo-Tooie desire food from Witchy World's food stands. Her material wealth has created a world around the Isle of Hags. Famous brands, famous places that become where the characters want to go. She is powerful, so she can decide what others want or don't want. They will want whatever is aligned to her power, since the other characters live in a world built by her exploits. Other characters want or don't want things depending on whether they exist or not in the world, and her products are visible. So Grunty becomes what the world wants, or Grunty creates the world with her wealth, in a way that makes others want or not want. Self and other are related in interesting ways. Self in the first game is what is wanted, and the relationship with others is what decides what self will be. Self in the second game is what is wanted too, but what is wanted is the relationship that establishes this body in 3D space. Others are what is wanted by this body. Other people to establish the body's stability. Others maintain this wealth of the body. The body's wealth is established by people. They purchase or work for this project of establishing a nice self for oneself, Grunty, in this case. In Banjo-Kazooie, the others establish the self by establishing how its body and its personality traits, desires, etc. should be. It should be like Tutti. Others help create the master plan for what this body will be like or how it will be, its personality, looks. It's Grunty who builds it. She puts in the work to create a self, this body, this personality, etc. In Tui, it's Grunty who has the master plan. She wants herself to be a specific way, the old body, and others will provide their life for it. Others will provide their work for this project. The body is built with the life and work of others. Others work towards creating this body, this self. Perhaps this is why the theme of food is present. The body is fed by other bodies. Other bodies feed the body. People provide their life. They die for this body to be born. We previously spoke of the spiral as something that goes up and goes towards life. But life here is being associated to the life of an individual. This individual being created by other life. Death is present. If the top of the spiral is Grunty's mouth who eats you, then by its very nature the top of the spiral is not life. It's life obtained through death. Maybe the spiral goes up towards life by using death. Enemies in the first game don't want to buy food from you. They want to munch you, get you as food and kill you. So life is shown as something that is fed on. Others kill you to stay alive. Life, then, in this game is perhaps not a static thing. It's a transition between two states, death and life. Life goes from death to life. When people eat you and therefore obtain life from the death of you, or maybe it goes from life to death also, when you're eaten and your life is ended by someone eating you. The transition from life to death is what the top of the mountain is for Banjo and Kazooie. The whole game, the whole first game, is also this process of discovering that others want to eat you. The more you die, the happier others are, the more alive they are, the more they move. Your sadness is Gruntilda's joy. This is what this game is saying, I think. So, the top of the mountain is a transition. You're going from your place to Grunty's place, from bottom to top.